So, welcome everybody to our second session of our week. So this is actually our second week, and this week we've been exploring teamwork. And on Tuesday, we met one of our employers. So we met Jackie from Crown, and she talked to us a lot about her role, her organisation, and what it is that they do day to day and all of the opportunities. And today we're going to be exploring teamwork and the importance of teamwork in our study. And ultimately it's through various different studying qualification pathways that we get to our dream jobs and to our dream careers. So today's session outcomes, by the end of it, we're hoping that you're going to be able to demonstrate an understanding of the skill that is teamwork. That you'll have been able to identify a range of work-based and academic qualification routes, and that will focus on our sector this week, which was advanced manufacturing and engineering. And you'll also have had an opportunity to speak to our lovely students, Sam and Maria, and found out more about their experiences at university, a bit more about their course content and how that's relevant to the real world jobs that they hope to go into, and also about teamwork and how that helps them and how they've developed their teamwork skills over time. So just as a bit of a recap, what are teamwork skills? Actually, do you know what? I'm going to open the chat and let's find out from you guys. What would be a good example of teamwork? If everyone just wants to take to the chat, what do you think? Oh, and just for Alex as well, Sam's last name is not Ambassador. He is an ambassador. He's here, and that was so we'd let him in. So what would be a good example of teamwork? What do we think? We talked about what teamwork is, and I'll go back to the recap in a minute, but can you tell me what would be a good example of teamwork in practice? Working precisely, yep, Armina, brilliant. Acknowledging everyone's ideas. That's a really, really good example of teamwork in practice. Nearly working together to achieve a bigger goal, absolutely, and that's kind of why we would work in teams as well. Can we achieve more together than we can individually? Listening, yep, definitely. Anyone else got any other examples of kind of teamwork in practice? Pushing for everyone to get involved, working together in groups and listening, being challenged, yeah. Got any other suggestions? Let's see if I can get two more suggestions. Encouraging one another, definitely. Being aware of your team, listening to ideas. Yeah, definitely. Okay, awesome. Well done, guys. So, yes, so teamwork is actually really complex. And I really do encourage you to go online and have a look at resources. Youth Employment UK have got loads of really good resources on teamwork in the workplace and how you can kind of develop some of those skills as well. I'm just going to go back to our slide on what teamwork actually is. So you've picked up on a lot of these themes. So working as a group of people, listening, encouraging. But one of the key things as well is it's taking the time to understand your team and to understand that everyone is different, everyone works in different ways, and it's about adjusting you and how you approach a situation quite consciously to make sure that things work effectively. So people have different styles, some people are leaders, and we all did a quiz, if you remember, just for fun really, that gave us a bit of an indication into how we fit in as part of a team. So I'm going to, oh, no. Oh. Okay, sorry about that. So what we did, and what we will do every week for those of you that are new, is our employee Jackie set a challenge for you all that was going to give you an opportunity to put down your understanding of teamwork, but also give you an opportunity to think about how you feel about teamwork and how it affects the way that you feel about organisations and how it might help you make choices about the types of organisations that you want to work for. And again, each week, or last week and this week, We've had some absolutely fantastic entries. I can see Nicola nodding there as well, some really good ones, and you guys definitely aren't making it easy for us to pick a winner. But this week, our winner of our Employer Challenge was, oh, now it delays. Sophie, so congratulations, Sophie. So you've won a £25 Amazon voucher for yourself, and also £500 worth of IT equipment or resources for your school. And like we said, it was a really, really hard decision. And we did also want to give a big shout out to Neely, because yours work was absolutely fantastic as well. So special mention there. And this is what Sophie submitted and why she was our winner. And actually, I'll just hand over to Jared and to Nicola just to give a bit of a summary about what it was that we liked about Sophie's piece.
Yeah, so from me, first of all, well done, Sophie. And I think what came across from this is that you really thought about your own situation within teamwork. You listened to what the brief was that Jackie set from Crown Packaging about what culture was meaning as well. So I think that you really put yourself in the situation here of what kind of an organisation you would like to go and work for, and why as well. So yeah, well done from me. Really good piece of work to be proud of.
Yeah, I totally agree with Jared. I really liked how you put yourself in the situation and talked very much about obviously how it would help reach your potential as well. I think that's really important when you're looking for kind of for jobs and places to work. It's not just about you fitting in with them, it's about how kind of they're going to fit for you as well. I think that's really, really important, and I really like how that came across. I also like your design as well. It was quite eye-catching. I like the little crown you've done as well, kind of very fitting with what we're talking about. So I think overall it was very eye-catching. I think you had really good information. I really liked how you made it about you and kind of obviously what you will get out of it and how it's going to help you as well. So it was really good.
Brilliant, fantastic. So thank you everybody, and we'll have another challenge that we'll be launching next week. And yeah, like I said, keep up all the really great work. It's been fantastic and an honour to have a look through it. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand over to Gerard just to give a really quick summary of the sector that we looked at as a bit of a reminder, and then we've got a video that we wanted to show you all to give you a bit more of an insight into how you might get into this particular sector. So Gerard, over to you.
Thanks, Becca. So if you were with us on session one, you'll recall that we looked at advanced manufacturing and engineering, and we sort of said that actually, if you take a look around your room, wherever you are at the moment, everything that you can see, touch and feel has gone through a manufacturing and an engineering process. And sometimes that can be the smallest component part that actually makes its way as a nut or a bolt into that first sector of aerospace, right through to some of the businesses that we've got locally that we spoke about, who are really leading the way in some of these, in terms of, we spoke about Caterpillar as a manufacturer of those sort of heavy plant machines, and that would fall into things like some of the civil sectors. So actually when we see roads being dug up, quite often that's to do with the manufacturing and the civil sector working together. But then we've got a really broad base of engineering organisations. So you'll see there that we've got rail. So HS2 is still going ahead, and actually that touches a large part of what we do in Leicester and Leicestershire in terms of being a transport and logistics hub. Now those have got to happen in terms of the engineering skills that are needed, and when we look at a project like HS2, actually there are sometimes a sort of 5-6 year lead-in time. So the engineers of today are still in the classroom, or albeit virtually, and that's where we can start to see why engineering and manufacturing is such an important sector for us today, but also for many years to come. Thanks, Becca.
Right, so let's go to our video. So as I said, this video is just to give you a little bit of an insight into how you might approach and get into a career in manufacturing from where you are now, so approaching our GCSEs.
Have you ever thought about a career in manufacturing? The sector employs over 66,000 people across Leicester and Leicestershire, and there are a huge number of roles available. We've come to JJ Churchill's, an advanced manufacturing company, to find out more about the roles available, the qualifications you need, and the money you could expect to earn while you work here. We're here with Andrew Churchill, Executive Chairman of JJ Churchill. So, Andrew, what can you tell me about your business?
Well, we've been in the business of gas turbine blades for 81 years, so right from the dawn of the jet age. And one of the things that goes alongside having the best technologies is absolutely having the best people. You need those two together, and that's what makes a great company. So when we think about manufacturing in the UK, and we think about output, 10% of our output nationally is manufactured. 50% of our exports are manufactured goods. And 2.6 million people are employed across the UK in manufacturing. And then when you look within any manufacturing company, including JJ Churchill, of course we've got the engineers and the operations people. But we've got accounts, we've got maintenance, we've got tool room, we've got purchasing, we've got HR. There's a huge gamut of expertise involved in things that aren't directly to do with engineering and manufacturing, that together help us make that product. And then a third overlay is the fourth industrial revolution. So this is the advent of digitization. So how does big data come into play? Internet of Things, additive manufacturing, augmented reality. All of these things make a career in manufacturing incredibly exciting and varied area to consider.
What opportunities are there at the moment for young people from school, college or university?
As a school leaver, you could look for a career starting in your very first job with a company such as ours, directly, on the ground, learning the tools of the trade on the job. Much more common in our business is that we take apprentices. Our apprentices are our lifeblood. And all of my directors, with the exception of my finance director and me, are actually ex-apprentices, including our managing director, including our founder, including the president. And we have apprentices all the way through all levels of management, because apprentices are doers. And we sponsor people through more academic education courses as part of their overall continued professional development. So that's one way. Another way, of course, is to go and do an engineering degree and come in as a graduate. So you're not shutting doors. There are lots of different ways in. And that, I think, makes a manufacturing career flexible and exciting, but also enables you to move at your own pace rather than going straight in and just doing an academic degree.
And what qualifications are you looking for before someone joins?
So there's a mixture here. There are some academic underpinnings that are very important, and the maths and the English, actually, GCSEs, are really important so that you can understand some of the basics that are required. But really what it's about is attitude and aptitude. So if you've got the spark, I will feed it. So we need enough maths and enough English and enough physics to be able to understand the concepts. But if you've got a passion and a drive, then basically we would do the rest. We will take you through on that journey. And quite often we take on youngsters who have struggled at school. Exams haven't really suited them, but they're not stupid. It's just a different way of learning. They've learned on the job with their hands, and their careers have really taken off by doing an apprenticeship.
The manufacturing sector is incredibly diverse, with a huge range of career opportunities available across small, medium and large companies in Leicester and Leicestershire. They manufacture a huge range of products. To find out more about the opportunities available to you, take a look at our website.
Locally, and again, just as a little bit of a reminder, we talked a lot about different companies. I don't know if you remember, we kind of did a little bit of a logo game just to highlight that there's loads and loads of opportunities, broad ranges of opportunities locally, so across the Leicester, Leicestershire, Rutland area. And these are just some of the companies, some you'll heard of and some you haven't. So I'm going to hand over to Nicola now just to talk us through in a bit more detail about those academic routes to higher it or to well, into the world of work. Nicola.
Thank you. So as you heard in the video, obviously whilst we are talking specifically about routes kind of into university at the minute, that's certainly not the only way to get into kind of this sector. So please don't be put off, you kind of think it might be for you, but you perhaps don't have the academic qualifications for it, because companies do take on really keen apprentices kind of without the academic qualifications. So don't kind of be put off too much, but we will obviously focus now on kind of the academic route through and obviously how you kind of get there after your post-16, post-18 qualifications. So we're going to have a look at a case study, and obviously we'll follow this case study all the way through from obviously choosing post-16 options all the way through to obviously what you do then obviously after you finish your A-levels or your BTEC. So this is Python. He's always enjoyed design technology, but he was also really good at maths and science as well. He got 8 good passes at GCSE, including his maths and his English. Now, Python is naturally good at design and is really, really creative as well. But in addition to that, he's also really logical and analytical too. So if it was just design, you might think kind of more art-based, but with the logical side and the analytical side, he thinks actually a career in engineering might be the best one for him. So he's done some research. He's gone onto the careers pilot website, which we've showed you before, and he's managed to kind of take a look through that. He's come across the career pathway that looks quite interesting, and he's learned a lot more too about the engineering sector. So this is kind of what he's looked at. He knows that he wants to go in something engineering, and he also knows there's kind of 2 different routes he could take. So he could do A-levels, and the important ones are maths and physics. But there's also the opportunity for him to do a BTEC as well, which is an extended diploma specifically in engineering. So I think a question then for you guys before we move on is thinking about what he's done so far, thinking about what his options are. What do we think Python should be doing? Do you think it's going to be doing A-levels or a BTEC? So if we open up the chat, if you want to let us know in the chat what you think, and then obviously we'll move on to see what he actually chose to do. So Maria and Sam, feel free to get involved as well. Let us know what you guys think.
I mean, looking at what he's doing, in some ways, a kind of the more kind of specialized diploma in engineering actually looks like a very kind of well-suited thing to the type of career that he wants to go into, and is possibly kind of a more direct route, judging off what I've seen.
The chat is very much equal. Lots of A-levels to start off with, a few more BTECs coming through now. Maybe you've been quite persuasive, Sam, and encouraging people to think about BTECs as a better option. Or about A-levels are making a comeback. Maria, what do you think Python should do?
I am not British, I'm Spanish, so I'm not very familiar with what BTECs are. I actually did international A-levels. And I got to university, so I just say to do A-levels, but I'm not really sure what a BTEC is. So
a BTEC is a slightly more vocational route. So rather than doing A-levels in a variety of subjects, you choose to do a BTEC in kind of one specific area, and it's often more hands-on, and yet some practical elements to it as well. So it's a bit more specialised in a very specific area.
I mean, maybe I'd say to do A-levels and keep everything very broad still, because he's still young. He doesn't have to choose immediately engineering, and maybe while he's doing his A-levels he'll find that he likes something else, like it might be architecture, or I don't know. That's what I'd say.
So 2 different opinions then from our 2 students, which is really interesting. So I think, again, looking at the chat, there seems to be a really big variety of people think different things actually. So it looks quite an even split, I think, between the 2 of them. So if we move on, we'll find out what Python decided to do. So he decided to go on and to do the BTEC in engineering at his local college, and the main reason he decided to do that was obviously he decided the actual BTEC course really suited him, but actually it's also really got the practical element to it, which was really keen to do. So he thinks a career in design engineering is going to be what's going to suit him, and it's really practical as well. I think that's a really big feature of the BTEC that you don't get with A-levels. I mean, Maria is absolutely right. If he was undecided, if he was quite analytical, liked logical problems, but also kind of like the maths of the things, we might have said think about A-levels a bit more broad. But actually, the fact that he knows he wants to do engineering is a really good kind of steer towards actually doing a BTEC. So he's on his BTEC course, which is great, and he starts thinking about what's coming next. So he uses the UCAS website. Now, you guys, I think I mentioned this last week to you, but UCAS is the place you go to look for university courses. And obviously you can type in a specific subject, you can type in kind of a broad area, and it will bring up hundreds, potentially thousands of options for you to be sifting through. But Python does his research, and he's got his short list of courses he's looking for. Now, he's got some quite specific requirements from the course. He doesn't just want to do engineering, but he's actually looking for one that will give him a work placement or chance to study abroad somewhere, as he knows that going to university isn't just about the studying these days, it's about everything else it gives you as well. And he thinks by doing the study abroad, or obviously by work placement, he'll get a competitive edge when he graduates from university, which is absolutely true. So does really well, studies really hard, and he gets DDM. So that's distinction, distinction, merit. That's how BTEC qualifications look. Unlike A-levels, which are still currently A to E's, BTEC's done slightly differently. So you get 3 grades for 1 BTEC that you might do. So Fighton is offered a place at Heriot-Watt University. Now, not a massive university, so you might want to go away and Google where that one is. And he gets a place on the civil engineering course with international studies, most importantly. So it gives him the opportunity to study abroad for a year, which obviously will give him that competitive edge. And it's worth mentioning at this point that studying abroad doesn't necessarily mean learning a new language. You can go and study abroad somewhere and learn in English still. You don't have to be doing a language course in order to go abroad and study somewhere. You can be doing any course at all and still have the opportunity to go abroad and learn a new culture without obviously going too far out there and having to learn a whole new language as well. Next page, please, Becca. So he gets to university, he studies really hard, and he gets a 2-1. So again, in terms of classification, with universities, you'll get a first, a 2-1, a 2-2, or a 3rd class degree. It's just the way they grade them. So he gets his 2-1, which is a really good degree. And by the time he starts looking for that first job, he's already got a whole heap of practical skills and knowledge as well through doing his BTEC, but also from his year abroad and also doing work experience whilst at university as well. So he's got loads of skills available to offer an employer. So I said before, university is not just about going to the course, it's actually about the experience you get whilst you're there as well. And I'll get Sam and Maria to talk a bit more about their whole university experience a bit later on. So he's done all this, he's got great qualifications, he's got good skills, he's got good experience. So he now knows he's got lots of different opportunities available to him and different pathways as well. So even though his degree was in civil engineering, he's not then restricted to doing that and that alone. So as you can see on there, there's lots of different opportunities for him to be doing. And if you look at the worksheet that Becca sent out this morning, there are some links on there and some different pathways you can have a look into if you think you might be interested in the engineering side of things.
And just here is that worksheet, guys. So I know we've got quite a few people for whom this session is the very first one. And you might be wondering what on earth that attachment is that gets sent round to you all along with the link for this meeting. So as we said right at the very beginning at our introductory session, the whole point of this course is to give you the opportunity to explore a bit more about different skills, to have a think through kind of where you're at, what skills do you have, which ones would you like to improve. And also we want to link that to the world of work and make you see that it's not just us preaching on because it's a good idea, and that actually these skills have a really relevant place out there in the world of work. And hopefully, well, I don't know how many of you have ever heard of a hydrologist. I hadn't, but we wanted to introduce you to some completely different jobs and sectors and roles that you might not have heard of before, but that actually you get there by having those essential skills, but also by some quite well-known study routes and some of the routes which you'll get to be choosing your own over the next couple of years. So the worksheet, if you have got Unifrog, if you have got a upload careers platform that your school use, put it there, keep the resources there, or you can use Bragg folder, which is something that you can just log on to and use individually. But these sheets, we're not going to mark you, we're not going to ask for them back in, but they are a really good opportunity whilst we're in this space, whilst we're having these conversations, to have a think through, to do some research and to get down some notes and things. So back to the presentation.
So in terms of obviously getting to that point, you've got 2 main routes. So you've got your academic route, which is kind of what Maria alluded to before, which is where you do your A-levels. Normally, it's quite a broad range of subjects. You pick things that are going to be linked in to the course you're doing. So in this case, it was things like maths, it was things like physics, maybe even design. And then you've got your options open still. So you choose to go to university, and you can choose to follow your engineering pathway, or as Maria said again, it might be that something else really sparks your interest during those 2 years, and you change your mind about where you want to go, which is absolutely fine. You've also got the more technical route, which is where you do these new T-levels or apprenticeships, and that's a little bit more hands-on. It's obviously more related to the career path you're going to be following. So you're unlikely to do an apprenticeship in engineering and then go on to do an art degree, for example. So you're more likely, it's more, again, it's about the research, about working backwards. So if you know that engineering is definitely for you, but it's definitely worth exploring kind of the technical route, because it is going to be more hands-on, very much more specific to kind of what you're looking to go and do in the future, but it will narrow your options down. So you think you might want to do it, but you're not really sure. And by choosing A-levels, you will obviously have that broader range of subjects available to you. But as you can see from both routes, you can end up in the same place. So same with doing A-levels, you can still go directly to work after A-levels. You could go on to an apprenticeship after that as well. So whichever pathway you do take, it's not going to kind of lead you down one singular path. So you can still end up in exactly the same place. So it's really about research. What's going to suit you best? How is it that you learn best? Do you like doing practical hands-on stuff? Or actually, are you more of a theory? You like to learn a theory first and then apply it afterwards. So do make sure you can understand what they all are, especially with T-levels. These are obviously brand new qualifications that are coming in that are kind of like A-levels, kind of like BTECs, but more technical and more aimed specific career pathways. So at the minute, there's a lot of theory out there. There's new things coming out all the time. So do look into them. Think about your learning style. Which one is going to suit you better? And what are you going to do better in at the end of the day? It's really important that whatever pathway you follow, you're going to get the best result that you can possibly get. And it's about figuring out the right pathway for you. It's all about your future self, not about me, not about Becca or Gerard. It's about what you guys want to do. So there are loads and loads of different options out there. We've looked at Career Pilot already. The link is on the bottom of your worksheet. So if you did miss last week and you wonder what on earth we're talking about, bottom of the worksheet, it's called Career Pilot. And it will talk you through all the different options out there for post-16, but also for post-18 as well. So have a read through, look at the different qualifications. And if you guys do have any questions, do feel free to drop us an email. We're more than happy to kind of talk you through some things if you want to know, but also access your careers guidance people in school as well. If you've been told about obviously ways to contact them, brilliant. Get in touch and ask your questions. But kind of make the most of this information now and really kind of seize the day and start thinking about where it is that you might want to end up and how you're going to get there, and start doing your research and seeing what's available to you and what might suit you best, most importantly. So I've talked quite a lot. I'm going to let somebody else do some talking. So I've got my two students. They are Sam and Maria. They are both ambassadors for the university. So I'm hoping they're going to talk a lot to you now and tell you some wonderful things about themselves. So a little bit obviously about what it is they do, a little bit about the course they do, and a bit about sort of their life at university as well. And obviously hopefully I might touch on some teamwork skills I've had to use. Now Sam is doing chemistry, but Maria is actually an engineering student as well. So Maria gives a bit more insight into what it's like to do engineering and perhaps what she wants to be as well when she's older, when she finishes university. And then we'll open up the floor to you guys. If you've got any questions for either of them about their courses, about university in general. We have got a little bit more time today, which is brilliant. So far away really. So I'm going to hand over to Sam first. Sam, if you want to kind of talk a little bit more about yourself, what it is you do, how it all works, that would be great. And then obviously we'll pass over to Maria.
Of course. So yeah, my name is Sam. I'm a chemistry student at the University of Leicester, and I've grown up through the Leicestershire system. And I thought going to university, oh look, I've got loads more lectures, etc. It's going to be like A-level seem to, there's kind of this perception that you just do a lot of memorizing, which I was never great at myself. And admittedly, my A-levels, they didn't go amazingly, but getting into university allowed me this whole new kind of realm to kind of actualize the learning that I was doing. A chemistry degree is surprisingly practical. You're in the labs for, I mean, next year I can be in the labs for 15 hours a week if I want. I don't need to, but it's very much kind of on my own kind of independence and my own motivation to do all of these things. In terms of the degree itself, yes, there are lectures. Yes, there are kind of tutorials. There is kind of that some learning in that kind of respect, but it is also very hands-on. There is a huge opportunity. Oh, apologies, we've just got someone ringing the doorbell quite a lot downstairs. I'll ignore that. But yeah, university, it's not only the course for me that's kind of helpful, and leading back to kind of the theme of this week, teamwork, it's also a chance to kind of get involved in student life in general. And that's actually helped me quite a lot in terms of my personal development and when I go on to do careers with stuff like leadership. And it's been, oh, apologies. Someone really wants to get into the house. It's been really helpful to kind of have the whole student experience. I know that I'm not a particularly sporty person, but when I got to university, I thought, oh, I'm going to pick up a sport. Could I pass over to Maria for just a second? Thank you.
Muted. I was muted, sorry. Yeah, so my name is Maria and I'm originally from Madrid in Spain. I grew up here, and when I was 14, I was given the opportunity to move abroad to Czech Republic, where I studied in an international boarding school for 3 years. And that's where I did my A-levels. I chose maths, physics, and history for my A-levels, and then I also did alongside a Spanish A-level just because I'm Spanish and I thought it'd be easy. And while I was doing my degree, like the A-levels, I realized that I really liked maths and physics, and so I chose engineering for my degree. I wasn't sure, that I was completely gonna enjoy it, but I thought, I like maths, I like physics, and there are things that are gonna be in an engineering degree, so I chose it. So far, I think what I chose is the right thing for me. I went in with no expectations, and the first year of university was very broad. So even though I chose aerospace engineering, the first year I learned almost like the most important like engineering sectors, which is electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and things like that. So I got to see kind of everything, and then in my second year I decided that I wanted to do for sure aerospace. The university at Leicester, everything is kind of half-half. So we've got individual projects, and then we have a lot of teamwork as well. And then we have like the more traditional subjects, like in A-levels kind of thing, so academic. For group projects, we've had this year to make a planetary rover, which was really exciting. And there you could kind of explore what really it is that you like. So if you like more the design phase, where you have to design the rover on softwares like CAD, I don't know if anybody has heard of it, or if you like more the manufacturing side, where you're in the lab and you're actually making the rover. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Maria. So, and thank you, Sam, as well. Sam, back?
Yes, I'm back. Apologies for the interruption. before.
That's all right, don't worry at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the chat up for questions, but I have a question to put to the two of you if it's okay. And that is that this week we've been talking about teamwork, and we've been talking about teamwork that's important. I think we've got that message across really well. And what I'm really keen to know from the two of you, and it is putting you on the spot, is teamwork something that you guys have individually had to work at getting better at? And if you have had to think, oh, actually, I could improve my teamwork in this way or that way, how did you actually go about doing it? So how can we actually, what practical things, I suppose, can our audience do to improve their teamwork between now when they're in year 9, 10, 11 to when they get to kind of your degree level?
I think that, when you're put in a group in university, a lot of the time you don't really choose the groups. The groups are given to you, so you really don't know what you're going into. Sometimes you'll go into a group where one person might not be putting the work that you think they should be putting, and things like that. So I think that it's really important to, first of all, like, communicate at all times, what you expect from the group, and like some expectations at the beginning of the project, and kind of so that you don't end up doing all the work, or people end up doing all the work for you, and then there's problems at the end. Kind of like share everything, and like give each person like a responsibility or a role that they'll be doing, and just in general communicate everything that you should be doing. If there's any problems, always consult together, kind of thing.
So kind of from my side, growing up through school, I was quite an introverted person. When it comes to doing kind of team projects and things like that, you don't want to be too extroverted. You don't want to be dominating the conversation whenever you're deciding something. But equally, you don't want to be that person who isn't saying anything at the back. On a lot of our projects, lots of the ways that they kind of see how much work you do is everyone kind of writes a little kind of form where they say who thinks that they did more work and who did less work. And you don't want to be that person who didn't do work because you just didn't say anything. And I've had to work on kind of being more outgoing quite a lot. And it really has helped me. Because if I can go and work with any people, like Maria said, you just get put in groups with other individuals on a lot of these projects. And if you can work with another person on your course who you don't necessarily know, you maybe hadn't talked to before, but you can jump straight in, it's genuinely really, really helpful just to be able to kind of get from the get-go and not have that kind of slow period at the start where you need to kind of struggle to kind of communicate with someone because you don't know them very well. If you can kind of put yourself out there a little bit, it can be really handy.
You've just described quite a transition and quite a journey there, Sam. So can you just think kind of consciously, what were the things that you did to get from kind of introverted you, knowing that you needed to be a bit more kind of in the mix, to kind of where you are now?
For me, it's interesting. I did quite a lot of youth leadership. So I volunteered and I actually did a lot of informal education, some in schools, some with other kind of youth groups, and really kind of talking to younger people and kind of showing other people that, look, this is the way you can learn that isn't the traditional way. It was kind of, education was a method for me to educate myself in a way. And I know it sounds kind of corny, but by putting myself out there to, sometimes if it's kids, like if you're in year 3 or year 4, I can just speak at them and they're just going to listen. And in some ways, it's a good way to get yourself less self-conscious. If you're just talking to someone and they're not really going to talk back because they're just kind of listening because they have to be there, that's kind of a first step somewhere. And also I was volunteering, so I was doing a bit of good, and that made me feel good. And it's all about having positive connections when you put yourself out there, because a lot of time I feel like people who are more introverted struggle to put themselves out there because when they have negative because it's usually when they're putting themselves out there. But if you can change that around, it can be really helpful.
Awesome, thank you, Sam. That was really interesting. So we've had loads of questions coming in for you guys, and Sam and Maria, hopefully you can see the chat as well. But a question, I think it was a really good question from Ollie, was how have you changed to adapt to lockdown learning, and how has your work changed? And I suppose particularly for teamwork, we're not able to sit in teams in the library, are we, at the moment? So what do you think? We'll start with
So when the whole lockdown went on, we were actually still in the middle of our rover project amongst many others. And obviously we were all at home. I had to race basically to Spain because they closed the borders and everything. But when we were at university already from the very beginning, we made a WhatsApp group chat. We also shared all the documents where we had everything, like all of our designs, all of, our everything. We just shared it in a mutual like Microsoft document. And so we could talk about everything as well online. And the university really made it easy to kind of turn everything in, and they extended some of the deadlines because they understood, that everything kind of changed. At the beginning, it was a little bit difficult because even throughout all this time, we started the exam season as well. So I had 3 exams, and obviously it was very different because we weren't in a room doing exams anymore. It was all at home. So we were given 48 hours to complete our exams, and they changed a little bit the way that the exams were, because obviously we had access to like lectures and things like that, so they were a little bit more difficult. But I think that the hardest part was, realizing that I don't have to go into university anymore. I don't have a 9 a.m. lecture or a 10 a.m. lecture, but I still have to wake up at this time to get all of this done from home. But I think that it was hard, that beginning part where, we all had to communicate, and there were problems like people not answering their phone or things like that. But throughout time, everything kind of worked together, and the university made it really easy to get all these things done.
Perfect, thank you. Other questions that we've had. Let me go up to some of our earlier questions.
I think there was a very kind of interesting question that I just saw about, where was it? From Amina. She asked, what's the biggest challenge you face whilst at uni? And I think that more applicable now than ever, considering we're in lockdown, self-motivation is a big thing at university. You're at university to learn, and if you don't want to learn, no one's going to force you. So you have to have a certain kind of push of your like go via your own steam to kind of get the work done. And with that comes the kind of temptation to spend all of your waking hours worrying about working, etc. So it's kind of finding a work social life balance is a very new thing to do, especially when you're living away from home. You don't have the kind of normal structure of, oh, I've got mum at home who's going to clean up after this. There's more things to think about, more stuff to balance. And I think that actually balancing your life when you're away is a really difficult part, and it's something that kind of some people get a real shock about. I know lots of people who really can't even cook when they get to university. All they can do is like pasta or cereal. And just learning how to like support yourself, it's a really difficult thing, but it's also really vital.
Still on mute, Becca.
Then we've had another really interesting question that's just come through from Raisa. I hope I've said that right. So, Maria, the question is, how much work do you normally get with everything and lockdown, and do you find that difficult?
So during lockdown, I got around 3 to 4 hours a day because it was exam season as well. So yeah, around 3 to 4 hours a day, I'd say. And I found it a little bit difficult because, you know, I have a brother and my two parents were also working from home. So it was everybody working from home. And so there was a lot of noise and everything, but it worked out. It worked out. It was a little bit difficult.
Awesome, thank you. And what other? We've got loads of questions actually. We've got questions ranging from what's your favourite part of the thing that you guys are studying to what jobs are you hoping to go into once you've finished and you've graduated. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So Maria and Sam as well, if there's any kind of questions that have caught your eye, then let's see how many we can get through in the next 5 minutes for everyone.
It's a bit strange in that I'm doing a chemistry degree, but actually I found that my favourite part of it is the material science and verging on to chemical engineering, which is obviously, that's what Maria does that as her degree, and it's very interesting. I have one of the people I live with, one of my housemates this year, is doing aerospace engineering, and it's very interesting talking to him about the different kind of things that he's studying and how they're actually still quite similar. So yes, when you get to university, you kind of specialize, but in some ways it's still really broad in terms of the, especially within science, that is anyway.
To the question, what jobs are you looking to go into the future when you're finished uni? I'd obviously like to work in an engineering company. I'm currently doing a summer internship at a company here in Spain that works with mobile robotics. So I'm trying to also discover in my workplace now what it is that I really enjoy about engineering. If it's also, you know, the design, you know, the design phase or the manufacturing part, or what it is really that I like, so that I can, you know, use that to find the right work for me, because I do also believe that wherever you go, you also have to enjoy what you do. So, yeah.
And yes, I think Alex's question, you are in Spain right now, Maria. So thank you very much for joining us. What other? See, I think we've got time for one more question. If anyone that has already typed a question that we haven't answered, if you just want to type it again, and we will answer the first question that comes into the chat from now. Had some really good questions. Let's go with one more question. Who's got a burning question that we haven't answered yet? All the suspense. Is it going to be a hard question? There we go, from Lily. How long do you have to study for? So that's quite a broad question, but Maria and Sam, if you can give us an idea of your study journey, I guess that links in with the careers that you want to do, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. So my degree is 3 years long, but you can choose to do a year in industry, where you work for a company for a whole year. So that would make your degree 4 years long.
In terms of my studying, I will study for 4 years, and much the same as Maria's course. I can either do a year in industry, or the department has lots of links to other universities in different countries. So you can go and do a lot of stuff there as a kind of year out as well.
Fantastic. So we have literally got 1 more minute actually, and we had a question from Mohammed about lectures. So lectures aren't something that are that we have kind of traditionally in our school. So you guys just able to talk a little bit about kind of lectures and tell us about your first lecture. What was that like, very quickly?
Waka Papa.
You're in a really big room. My course has around 150, 160 people, so it's a very big room. The teacher is at the bottom, and there's like a presentation that is gonna be what the class
Wow,
is
that is so
about.
cool.
And yeah, so it's kind of like a traditional class kind of thing where the teacher talks to you and you listen to what they say and take notes.
Was it easy to get used to that learning style for you guys, Sam and Maria?
It's different. It's very different. But I think that there's also this myth that science courses have loads and loads of lectures a week. And yes, there are kind of lectures, but there's also stuff like working in the lab and problem classes where it's not all sitting in rows in front of a person doing a presentation. There's also other kind of collaborative spaces that you do lots of kind of studying in. And for sure, the other kind of collaborative types of study really help inform the lectures, and that really helped me with the kind of transition to university.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, thank you guys. That was all that we've got time for today. It's been fantastic having you with us, and we got through a lot of questions there, and thank you to all of our participants as well for putting your questions out there and engaging with the session and really listening to what Maria and Sam had to say. So the next time we'll get together will be next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Again, I'll be sending out all the information that you need. Do use the time that you've got, or any little time that you do have, just to reflect on this session and take a look at that worksheet. Like we've said, it's there for you guys. And ultimately, have a fantastic weekend. We will leave everything there. So thank you so much for joining us. We will see you all next Tuesday.